Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Thunderstock Show, collection of valuable brainstorms to enhance your life, liberty, and pursuit of property. Today's special guest is Shay Thieberg, aka Shay LinkedIn, all the way from Tel Aviv. Shay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me, Ross.
Shay, we had an interesting conversation before, and you're one of the few people that that had an academic career that had took some twists and turns, both with a psychology certification and degree as well as marketing. Can you tell me a little bit about, growing up, what were some of your interests, and why did you take that? To some that are listening think those are not related. You and I discussed they are. Tell me a little bit about your education growing up, and what you're interested in.
Sure, that's a throwback. I started in a interactive communication degree, where I mostly studied about VR, marketing, and even UX, UI. And then as the degree went on, I was exposed to more psychological effects, for example, within UX, UI. And then I started to think to myself, wait, this psychological thing, it's not the therapist that, hey, how do you feel about that thing that we see in movies and stuff? I saw a different kind of psychology, and I started to ask some questions for my lecturers, and they told me, yeah, Shay, there is a degree called social psychology. So I went on. I saw that there is a degree at the same university that I went to. It's an MA. So in my third year for my BA, I started to take courses of psychology to mind the gap. So I'll be able to get accepted to the master degree. I was finally got accepted after all the stuff that I had to complete. And I was the first communication student in doing the transition to psychology. And Ross, I'm telling you, that's the perfect combination. Psychology is going hand to hand with marketing. I'm seeing it on a daily basis with my clients, with my employees. And I'm so glad that I had the chance to combine those two practically.
Yeah, one quote I love is that you can't over empathize with your audience, whether that is your employees, whether that is your clients or their leads or prospects. So what does empathy mean to you with your training and background, and how does that relate to marketing?
Wow, that's an amazing question. I'll answer this one with an example from last week. So I had a conversation with a client. You know all about this conversation. And all of a sudden, the client is telling me, hey, Shay, you guys are using AI right now. I told her, yes, we are. And then she's using it against me. And she's like, shouldn't you decrease your monthly retainer due to the fact that you are doing stuff faster and more efficiently? And I'm like, took a deep breath, and then I started to questioning her. Hey, what do you think? Na, 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 na. So after a month, I decided to post about it, and it opened this notion, this remark to the broad audience on LinkedIn, and asked them what do they think, because I wasn't sure that I was right by telling her, hey, listen, dear client, we are moving faster, but it's helping us to deliver more high quality stuff, or posting more, or doing it's free us to do some other stuff like strategic wise. So it really opened up a really important conversation on LinkedIn. So being empathetic, it's also being authentic. So sharing those day to day stuff that happened to me, it's bringing me into the people. I'm an expert, but like I don't know everything. So I open stuff for conversation. And I think that's the most relatable thing that as a professional that you can do.
They say there's the practice of medicine. It's not that a doctor knows everything and, oh, well, it must be this. It's a verb. It's an activity that, just because someone is an expert doesn't mean that they have all the answers yet. And I think what you said, where you took a deep breath, you started asking questions. Number one, people overlook the importance of pausing, taking a deep breath. So there's that. And then number two, it's I think that often people hate what they don't understand. And if you understand where someone's coming from, one, you made some great LinkedIn content from it. Two, you better were able to address the objection or the conversation by just saying, jumping to a conclusion. I think that marketing years and years ago would spend major budget on what experts thought that an ad campaign should do on a television ad or whatnot. And the results were, now people can test faster. and get live feedback. And I tell people all the time in marketing, it's like, look, just because I like the way a campaign looks or sounds doesn't mean the
It
market
is going to
will.
work.
It doesn't mean that just because I like it, like
Because
I'm
I'm
not
not
the
doing
one
it
buying
for
it.
you. I'm doing it for the audience that I'm
Yes.
aiming for.
Yes.
And by the way, the client from my story, she wasn't trying to antagonize me. She
Mm-mm.
was genuinely asking me. And the reason I posted it later on, anonymously, obviously, it's because if she's one person, but if she had this thought, maybe other people got this thought as well. So that's a burning issue that I want to erase to hear more disciplines and other perspective from different kind of people. So yes, it gave me the excuse to post another LinkedIn content, but it also got me as a better businessman and professional because I learned from other people answers as well.
Well, and the other thing that I think everyone listening should really take away, whether they're in business, entrepreneurship, marketing, or whatnot, but when one person has a question and they're brave enough to and kind enough to give you the feedback to ask the question, chances are somebody else is wondering the same thing, you know? And I think the best content is from real life people asking questions, or there's, real life stories that actually are real and true. Because the other, you said, empathy is authenticity go hand in hand. Like, if you just tell the truth and you just observe reality as it is, there's going to be people that will relate to it versus trying to defend something that, we've thought up in a boardroom, or we asked ChatGPT what we should post on LinkedIn. It's like, well, or you could just live your experience. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great segue.
And I actually did a really cool thing within this post that I posted. I wrote the entire scenario. The entire thing happened to me with the client. I asked the question and I wrote with a star, check the comments to see my response to her. So I haven't included my actual response within the original post. I put it in the first comment. So that was kind of a LinkedIn hack that I used in order to gain more engagement as well. So that's an tip that our listeners could use.
I think for everyone on that tip, there was when I started doing digital marketing X amount of years ago, there was always a line of thinking in agencies and business owners of how to game the algorithm. It was a very common like question to solve, as if it was some math problem that, oh, well, if we do X and Y inputs, or if we build this much backlinks, and there was some truth to it. But if you figure out how to use a, say, LinkedIn, for example, social media platform to genuinely engage, like, you don't need to rely on magic tricks or, gaming an algorithm, because the whole intention of social media is to connect people.
And my whole intention of posting it was to ask a question. I just gave you like an Easter egg within the comment about my reaction if you're interested in. But the intention of the post was to raise an issue and hear the broad audience responding to it.
Yeah, man. So everyone listening, Shay and I also have something in common. We're ADHD entrepreneurs. I know that a lot of the psychology that I studied was from a childhood diagnosis. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey with, ADHD and entrepreneurship, and what it was like for you?
Sure. So growing up, I was always told that my ADHD, I'm sorry to hear to use even this word, but a disease, a kind of a malfunction, an error, something bad. But I don't know how it happened, but I never wanted to take any pills. I never wanted to take anything to constrain it or to I really wanted to explore it. So I remember vividly when I was really bad in school, I was playing basketball and I decided like, okay, let me put some basketball for aside for a few months and I will concentrate primarily on my studies. And I graduated with an amazing certificate and then I proved myself that I can do everything when my mind is set to it later on doing business and everything. So I saw that my ADHD is actually, I can do stuff simultaneously. I can remember stuff whenever I'm concentrating. Wow, it's better than any other thing that I can use as a pill. So ADHD for me, it's creativity. It's a super skill. It's a lot of empathy, by the way, we discussed it earlier. So today I'm seeing it as a skill. And actually I posted about it and I got so many messages from worried moms that they want their kid to talk with me about how I was able to overcome, and I never overcome it, I'm still using it, but like to find my inner self and utilize this ADHD. I can't imagine myself running my business, 30 something plus clients, 12 something plus employees, projects, inbound leads and stuff that I need to take care of, and finance and stuff without this ADHD where I'm jumping from one thing or another. If I was just, I don't know how normal people act, but just doing one thing at the same time, I couldn't run a business and grow significantly.
Yeah, I think it's a feature, not a bug. So
Nice one.
I think that
Can you use this one?
what's that?
I
Oh,
can I
it's
use
yours.
this? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, take
I
that.
think I'll use it. It's a feature, not a bug.
It's
Yeah,
a feature, not a
that's a
bug.
nice.
To your point, I mean, there's the mental elasticity. There's the being able to entertain several lines of thinking at once. It's sometimes, people think that it's a lack of attention. I think it's an excess of attention. It's like sometimes because being in school, especially for those who are listening that are male. I know it was more difficult for me as a young boy, full of energy and then testosterone. It was just a lot of, the chemical aspect was tough because you're juggling with the fact that they want you to
Going on.
sit still for 8 hours a day and pay attention to something that, like, there was times in class where I would just do the thing while the person was talking. And then I would just distract myself with something else because it was too slow. I think that's not a problem. It's more of a defunct of society and normal than it is like they're just not. There's a lot of instances, especially for younger people with ADHD, where whether they're not challenged, they're not engaged, they're not whatever it is, find that which challenges you and makes your ADHD a superpower. And then, like, if I could go back in time and just like stop worrying about being normal, that's not, no one's normal. Like, normal is a myth, I think. I
No
think
one.
so. That's an interesting take, and I really like hearing that. Um, that people reach out and you can do some mentorship around it, because I don't know about you, but it was kind of low. There was instances of like loneliness or almost like feeling like a social
Yeah, nobody
isolation.
gets you. Nobody
They don't
gets
get
you.
you. Yeah.
You're interrupting mid class and you're kicked out, and like nobody really, they don't have time. I understand you have a huge class with lots of students, everybody got, but luckily for me, I had, this one teacher who believed me, like Coach Carter thing. Uh, um and that's giving you the boost to go ahead and explore yourself. I'm really happy that I had the chance to discover it by my own and talk about it. And I think the more that we are trying to investigate and mapping our character, the way that we think, the way that we operate, the more clarity that we will have, and therefore the more impact that we will be able to move forward to other people.
Yeah, clarity, self-awareness. It's a journey of it's like health and fitness. The more clarity and self-awareness that you can obtain, or the more, health benefits from muscle mass and cardiovascular fitness, the better you are at whatever it is that you do. And you had mentioned before that thank goodness you have a co-founder that handles the accounting and the administration, which it sounds, we have a
And
lot
it's
in
leaving
common.
me to do what I do best.
Right. But if you had to do all of it yourself, then
I would
it
lose my mind.
it's like, yeah, exactly.
You should know your limits within the ADHD, but I do want to say, as a call out for all entrepreneurs or solopreneurs who are listening to us at the moment. 2 years ago, I started to go, I'm a psychologist, but I started to go to a therapy by myself. Ross, that's the best thing that I did for my personal life, but also for my professional life.
Hmm.
That actually gave me, that's like a rocket ship, took me to a whole different level. How to take this breathe, the deep breathe with the client, how to go over my thoughts at the end of the day, and to be able to fall asleep calmly without, thinking about the next post for tomorrow or the next campaign or the ROI and everything. So it's really relaxing. It's helping you. So going to therapy was the best thing that I did for my business.
Well, we also discussed how taking days off or taking mental breaks, whether that's Thanksgiving or Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever. Doesn't matter the time on the calendar. Heck, even if there's not a holiday coming up, just still having a blocked off period where you intentionally don't think about it. There's magic to pausing and using that time to reflect, because you're, as fast as our brains may be when it comes to being able to juggle campaigns and all the things, like your body, everyone's body needs time to digest, needs time to rest and reflect. And how, what are some ways, you mentioned therapy being one, that you maintain your fast pace but also take those breaks for clarity and rest?
My go-to move, and this will surprise you or our listeners, I'm super clear and open up with my employees and clients. Like if I'm having a bad day, hi, I'm having a bad day. They shouldn't know the reason, but just for you to know, I'm working a little bit slower today. That's the most relatable thing that you can do. People will appreciate you more. And you know why? Because then they will know that they can do the same with you, and that's building strong relationship. I discovered this entire uh, thing that I'm doing by a super funny way. I'm a really big Marvel fan, and I used to not to discuss it in rooms because it sounds childish or nerdy or whatever. And then someone told me, you never know how it will make people feel when you'll be exposed and clear about the stuff that you like. Or stay genuine. And whenever I'm staying genuine with people, I see them open up. I see that they trust me more. I can trust them more. And this is how you make business and you go forward with people. And not only making campaigns, you're making an impact. You're making a client stick with you, because looking at, we are about to wrap up 2025. I'm looking at my clients. We have a huge rate of clients that are sticking with us for the third and fourth and fifth year. It's not that we are the best ROI marketing team or the best content. We are some of them, but there are more.
But that's not the only reason that you
It's
have
not
the
the only
retention.
reason. We're building relationships, and if you will be measured by your CPCs and your deliverables and the efficiency, or like the client asked me before, how efficient you are with AI thing. No, you'll be measured by the communication and that you will build with your peers and clients.
That's such a wonderful point. I cannot tell you how many times I've reviewed at the end of the year clients coming on, clients churn,
Yeah,
reviewing the clients that, we've had some success stories for case studies and whatnot. And then there has not been a time, Shay, more than now, that I could argue that the correlation between, you know, KPI success and client satisfaction, where they like me, I like
exactly.
them, it's not correlated as much as people think. Like, yes, get results, that's why they pay you, but you could get somebody the best results in the world and they don't stick around, and it's just because it's not a culture fit. So, what kind of culture do you build in your team and you seek for in clients, that you're like, this is the fit for me, these are my people, and if you have these characteristics, great, and if not, there's probably another agency that can serve you better, to work for or with.
Sure. So I think the first thing comes to my mind is visibility. I want the client to be exposed to our metrics, that he will have access to the page, to our content Gantt. I want a weekly meeting with it. I want him to see my client manager's posts. I want them to be in constant touch with him, so he will see that we are out there, that we are not just an email away agency. We are a WhatsApp or a quick message away team, that we're working together. So if I'm taking it to a more practical ways that we're doing stuff, we have, like every other agency in the world, an onboarding process, an ongoing process, but we also have an offboarding process.
Mm.
And I'm showing the offboarding process to the newest client that we're getting.
Hmm.
I want them to know that we are accompanying them from day one to whenever, that we are well prepared for every scenario, that we got content ideas, which is fine, but we also know how to navigate them based on their evergreen and ever changing KPIs. objectives and stuff. So I think processes, think clarity or visibility that I called it earlier. And maybe the last thing, the employees that working with me, not for me, with me. I'm looking for in-personal skills rather than marketerial skills before. You can teach anyone marketing, content, copywriting, especially with the AI and everything, but you cannot teach someone how to approach someone, how to actually see if your POC within the company, the point of contact, is maybe having something. Like I had a client today, she's haven't answered us for a week. I told one of my employees, wait, lots of people are sick at the moment, bad weather and stuff. Maybe she got something. Try to call her once. She haven't answered her. You just send her an email and let's see her. If she doesn't answer next week, we can escalate it to the next person up the chain. But be empathetic, like we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and the other thing I really like about that response, Shay, is that you've said now several instances where you just don't jump to conclusions. It's so much better to seek first to understand and to have the approach of patience and err on the side of operating with good faith, right? Like they don't assume that they're upset with you. We did something wrong. Maybe there's something else going on in their life. To everybody, their life is the most important thing. It's not, what the relationship with our agency.
Yeah. And
So
they
that
have other stuff to do. I always tell my employees that 10% of the week that your POC within the company is dealing with LinkedIn is your 100% as working for my agency. So you cannot expect them to be in constant communication, which is totally fine. And by the way, as we speak, I just thought that some of the main agendas that I just shared are coming from my best book that I can recommend to our listeners. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called The Four Agreements.
Oh yeah,
You read it? You read it? You had a chance?
it's sitting on my shelf by Miguel Ruiz, Don Miguel
Yeah.
Ruiz. Yeah, it's right there.
But you read it? You gave it a
Oh yeah.
read? So don't jump into conclusions, right? Just discussed it. Don't take anything personally, like the client with the AI question. And there are two other stuff, but let the listeners to ever read themselves.
I had a conversation this year with a gentleman, Adam Goldschmidt, and he had told there's a couple of things I want to unpack from your answer, which is awesome. But we had a conversation about how we both had, as young adults, a parent die. And I had said something to him where it's like, oh yeah, losing my mother. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, you didn't lose. She was never yours to begin with. You didn't lose your mother. She passed on. Like, let's be clear. Her time is her time and his father's time was his time. And that was such like a refreshing conversation having like, a heavy, dark subject. But when you think of it like, don't take anything personally, even the relationships, even the worst things that could happen. He had, referencing this conversation, as tying it back to something else, he had said, he goes, look, you have to, yes, feel the feelings, address the concern. But one, the worst thing you do is ignore it and not feel the feelings because it comes out eventually, whether you like it or not. Right. And he goes, the other worst thing you do is hyperfixate on it and let it, control you. It's something that's not in your control. What are some of the ways that you, going back to ADHD, that you the best way to phrase this is, I would just be blunt. How do you allocate budget of your attention and say this deserves this much attention, this deserves that much attention, and prioritization of your focus?
The most genuine answer for this one is that I'm still working on it. I think this is the place where I'm lacking of like time management that I'm working. Recently, the thing that's working for me the best is my old school notebook where I'm just scratching off everything that I'm writing. Sometimes, let's say I need to send an email, just an email, not a project, not a presentation for someone. Send an email to Ross. So I'm writing this little tiny task and I'm scratching it off the board as soon as I'm getting it done. So this is how I'm making sure that with my ADHD, everything is going around. Fortunate enough, I have the best co-founder ever, Eli. He's my second brain. And another thing is delegation. Delegating is probably, as an agency owner, is the most important thing that I had to do. And I took the leap and I did it. There is no replacement to building other people, ambition, self-awareness, motivation, and belief. Giving them the skills is technical stuff. In most companies, people will get the skills eventually, but building them and delegating to them and giving them the actual trust, that's the best ROI as an agency, that's as a business owner, that I can get. Making them going to client, I always tell them, I want you to tell me about stuff that you haven't planned for the client, that you planned, did, executed. Tell me about it only after that everything happened. I want to know that you ran the entire thing from A to Z. That will be my dream. And they started to do it, but it's only because I delegated some of my tasks, some of the stuff that I do on a regular basis. And that's a phase that we as business owners need to transition ourselves to. Otherwise, we will get so caught up, and we discussed it about vacations, about times off, about family and stuff. You want to build the next accessors to everything that you do.
One thing you said that applies to anyone, especially with people like us with ADHD, when you physically write something down on a notepad and you scratch it off, I don't know what magic this is. There is like a hit of dopamine. Like you get that feel good chemical hitting your brain where you start to build momentum. Even if it's send an email to Shay, even if it's, let's say, whatever it is, show up to a doctor's appointment, whether it's, go for a run, whatever it is. And you have a list, you make an agreement with yourself. I will do this. And then, shake your hand at the end with that scratch off. Look, I'm reliable. I can do what I say I'm going to do. That's huge for anyone. I do the same thing. Sometimes I have it on my computer screen. Sometimes I carry on a notebook, but there's like always a daily, like, do these things. And it makes the momentum and the time go in the right way. It gives you that feeling of control. The other thing about delegation,
And
I think that,
just to add something quick to it,
yeah,
it's also helping you to reflect,
right.
because at the end of the day, you can see all the scratches away and it's helping you. "Oh, I achieved a lot today." That's massive. But yeah,
And the thing about delegation, I will tell you a funny story how it's a skill. And I think, like any skill, you need to continually refine them and get better at them. You haven't just arrived at being a master of delegation and then you're done forever. But when we talk about things that give us energy and that light us up and that, rightfully are in our sphere of genius, demand our attention, and we'd like to give the attention to it. The easiest thing for people like you and I, Shay, to delegate are the things that we don't like to do, we might not be good at, makes us feel crappy to do them. For me, those are a lot of very easy things. Administrative, bookkeeping, but I will say that for those of you listening that maybe they label themselves as control freaks, I promise you that if you start delegating the things that are the most obvious that you should delegate first, everything else becomes easier. For me, it could be hiring a cleaning service for your office or your home. I do not love to clean, but somebody else does. And I can pay them less than my billable rate, and everyone wins. Same thing with meal prep. I like to cook once a week, maybe only the things that I like to cook, but for the day-to-day meals, to make sure that everyone's being fed and whatever, you can hire a meal prep service. Like those things as examples for delegation. And then you stack the things eventually, and then you're only focusing on the things that light you up.
that's funny because it's bringing me back to one of the funniest things that I ever told my fiance. I told her, I want to bring in to our house a cleaner, someone to take care of everything. Told her I don't have time, ta 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 ta. And she was, no, it's more money. We can do it ourselves on Saturdays and stuff. And then like, babe, I want to spend more time with you. And then she got very, oh, yeah, you're right. So you can do the same thing with business. If I'm telling my employees, I really want you to come to me when you have a really huge issue or a creative brief that you need my brain or to brainstorm about. Don't come to me for where this file is, or come on, use my brain and use my time to amplify yourself. And that's a major shift that I also did in my business. I'm telling them, please try. I'm here for you. Like, you got me. If you really need me, I'm here. But in order for you to make a progress, you have to try to give everything that you got. You got AI, you got Google, you got lots of resources and peers and stuff that you can search for. Come to me, and then we will be able to discover new stuff that we haven't thought about before. Because you don't need me for the bits and bytes. You need me for the new thing, the additional thing. This is how we are evolving and getting out of our skins and making difference.
Told me an instance about, the question of, well, if you're using AI, that means it requires less time. So when the billable rate go down, what you just said of delegating to amplify your ability. One of the things that I use AI for myself and clients is like, if I have to do email or something like that. And yes, I wrote the email, but to do the send, instead of copy pasting to multiple recipients or managing it, you have AI like do the sending. There was a time, I'm not kidding you, 10 years ago, not that long, where I was a paid full-time salary marketer and I would take an email, I would copy and paste it and change a few words like names and personalization and hit send. And I would do it manually for 40 hours a week. Now with AI, I don't have to spend more than 40 hours one time, and usually much less than 40 hours, but maximum, to do way more, the same exact work. So you've amplified that person's time intrinnsically. And the point is, like you said, because we use AI and because we delegate, we have more time for human connection.
It is. And a quick tip, I'm actually letting my employees sending the emails. You know why? Because I want them, if we came up with a great idea or anything, even if I brought it up, I want them to take the credit for, because I want to build the client trust with my employees and my agency and not with me. You probably encountered this before, that clients want Ross for the consultation. No, I want the company to consult, because we have a method, we have a process. So I'm giving my employees to send those high efficient and important emails, and it's working phenomenally.
And it shows that you trust them, right? Like if you want somebody to elevate, delegate and elevate is a common phrase in entrepreneurial operating system. Well, if you micromanage and say, "Oh no, like send that to me before you send it to them," or "I don't trust you to send an email," that doesn't make them more confident, right?
The opposite, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I want to switch gears a little bit. What about life and business today did you have no idea about 10 years ago? Like, what did you learn through doing and living that you could have not predicted that you were like, that's crazy?
Think the growing up and doing the first degree and everything, I think academia or parents sometimes and your society is really like, you have like a bar. Like, if you're gonna do this role or this position, you can do this job and you will earn that amount of money, and then you can do it for a few years. And going full scale entrepreneurial beast mode taught me that I can control my life from A to Z. I can decide how much money I make. I know it sounds not that humble. I'm still growing, but like, I can decide now I can do it. It took many years, but I saw a chart the other day that if you're going to go to, and that's fine for people who want stability and everything. I saw like a chart that you see the bars in the same salary a year after year after year. And with entrepreneurs, you see it's really low, below your friends in the first few years after school.
Oh yeah.
It's still low, low. It's growing, and then all of a sudden, one day when you get everything going, the increase is exponential, and then you realize, Ross, and I got to this conclusion with my therapist a month ago, that everything that took me 10 years, and you asked me about 10 years, everything
Yeah.
that took me 10 years, if I'll do it again now, it will take me maybe 10 months.
Right. I know.
That's as soon as your mind is blowing in terms of relationships, in terms of business wise, friendships, everything that I built myself for 10 years, now I can do in 10 months. And that's
I
amazing reveal.
Albert Einstein with the theory of relativity. Okay. People think that that's just math and, but what that really says to you, like to everyone listening, is if you think of entrepreneurship or life as a journey where, there's, sure, you have a North Star, you have some direction, you want to go someplace for Shay and I's entrepreneurship. And there were years and periods of time where you'd think that, oh boy, this is tough. Am I ever going to make the money, hit the goal, will I ever get there? But then when you look back and you're like, oh, it took 10 years and it's because you had to level up, learn, skill up. But like you said, you can compress 10 years into 10 months, but only if you put in the 10 years first.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that frame of reference. That's so true.
And also now looking back, like I don't th- I don't think that I ever dreamed to be in the position that I'm at today. 10 years ago, I had a ceiling, glass ceiling, like we all talk about the glass ceiling and everything. Whenever you start and let things roll, all of a sudden you're losing the ceiling. You don't even see it. It's not existing. So, as a conclusion, I think we are the worst enemies, but we can also be our best advocates and motivators for ourselves.
Yeah. The glass ceiling thing, I think, is as real as people believe it to be. And I think, like you said, if you're going to the frame of 10 years ago, it existed because it didn't know how to get past it. But if you think of it not as glass, but as like darkness, where if you take clarity and you reflect and you, like you said, look back and learn from mistakes and what worked, what didn't work, you get, with clarity, it's hard to be lost in the dark, right? It's almost like a flashlight. I think of attention a lot like light, right? Well, once you just see that you're running into a wall, but 2 feet to your right, there's an open door. You don't run in the same wall once you know the door's there, but you had to feel around the dark before you could find the light switch.
Nice. Nice one.
Yeah, no, you made me think of that. So, what's one strategic advantage that your agency has today that people listening might not even know is a strategic advantage to exist?
I'll answer about my agency, but that's a tip for everyone. The power of the niche. Like I chose the LinkedIn niche and I'm doing everything within. Starting off 10 years ago, by the way, approximately. So I did LinkedIn, but only thought leadership for executives. Then we started to enroll company pages. And now we are enrolling videos for LinkedIn. And now we're also, last year we did employer branding on LinkedIn. So within the niche, we discovered a vast, diversified potential stuff that we can do. So this is our power of the niche. But let's say you are a young social media manager who just got out of school and you want to run companies' Instagram accounts. Okay, focusing on one niche. You want to do it for the wellness industry. Be the best at something will always draw more attention and more business to everything that you do. I saw, Ross, that at the beginning of my career, by launching our agency, some of our clients told us, hey, Shay, can you also do our Facebook and YouTube and whatever? You're doing a great job. You should do the same for. And at the beginning, I said, hell yeah, why not? I was young.
Right.
I'm doubling or even tripling my retainers. And then I saw two things. First thing first, lots of hours on studying and keep myself updated with all the bits and bytes and everything happening other platforms. Secondly, it was much harder for me to get new clients, but because all of a sudden I'm a marketing agency. I'm not a LinkedIn agency. So they will go to the most experienced marketing agencies out there. So narrowing down to one niche for me, it was LinkedIn was the best strategic business decision that I made. And what we do differently from other agencies is that we cover LinkedIn from A to Z, and we are building designated strategic plans to LinkedIn. And lastly, we are connecting to your organizational and business results and not to your marketing KPIs. We're working on we calling it the ROL, which is like ROI, but ROL is return on LinkedIn. We want to work on what's moving the needle and not what showcasing in your last year presentation how many followers you got. I want to understand how many of those followers were the right followers and how many of them converted and became clients. So we're working on this whole thing of generating real business results.
You find just how deep your niche can go only after you select it and say no to other things. Because the hardest part, I went through this, plenty of other people that listen to the show that I've talked to have went through this. When you try to be everyone to everything, then you're nothing to no one
Mm-hmm.
eventually.
Yeah.
If you've listened to prior episodes, this is my favorite part of the show. So leave a question, ask a question. Question for you, Shay, is what person do you need to apologize to that is still alive that if all you did was call them, you could get the apology handled and not carry that regret around with you?
Wow, that's a deep one. I'll go super, super like emotional thing for myself. I think I will apologize to myself for doubting myself while growing. Like
Nice.
Shay that you're speaking with today wasn't the Shay before 2 years ago before going to therapy. So calling myself the Shay from 10 years ago, go to therapy. It's okay. Don't doubt yourself. It's not a shame to go to therapy. It's the best thing that will happen to you. Narrow it down, go to the niche. So apologizing to myself about it's not about the losing time that it's part of the process, but like, we all have stuff that we are carrying on from the past. And as a person, whenever I make mistakes, I do make apologies to people.
But it's different with yourself.
But it's different with yourself because sometimes we can be so harsh with ourselves. So as a tip, and again, I really like to share them down. I'm really reflecting with myself. I'm literally raw sitting with myself, reflecting with myself about stuff. And that's the most grounding thing and human thing that you can do for yourself. So and by the way, just as a it just came across my mind. It's not an apology, but I'm actually sending myself emails every year and scheduling them. So every year, I've been doing it for years by now. At my birthday or December 31st, at the end of the year, I'm writing myself an email. Hey, Shay, this is Shay from the year 2024, for example, or the beginning of 2025. Writing for yourself. This year you had the achievements. You wanted to work on A to B. And Ross, every year, back again, I'm forgetting about me. This is why it just crossed my mind. I'm forgetting that I even scheduled it. And then it's super surprising, super emotional, super exciting to see how many I achieved. And the best part about it, I think most of the stuff that I'm writing over there are actually fulfilled and came to life. So I can't remember when was the last time I scheduled it. I think it will be for my birthday, or I usually do it also for the end of the year. So I will see soon enough the scheduled email.
Very cool. Now, what question do you have for my next guest without knowing anything about them? Could be anything.
Nice one. What will be the most important thing that you will give up on that you already know within will make the most impactful change in your business?
I,
What will be the most important thing that you will give up on in order to make the biggest change in your business?
that's it's a great question because people always think that they have to add more stuff. It's just do more, continue
Take
add the
more,
quote.
just
But people don't usually think, what do I need to stop doing or give up on in order to get the desired result? That's a
and
great
I'll give
question.
you a quick example. I gave up about the hands-on approach from me as Shay. Like, clients really like to hear that you're also hands-on and you're part of the process and everything. I gave up about being hands-on. It gave more, I don't know how to call it, just gave more independency to my employees. They grew better. I have more time for other stuff. So yeah,
No, I think for those of you listening, I'll answer that. I have given up on so many activities within my business that would give me temporary dopamine hits of, well, I'm busy, therefore I'm productive and I'm doing the right thing. But then when you reflect and you say, okay, well, the outcomes that I wanted for myself and clients versus the time spent or money spent doing them, I stopped doing probably 70% of the things that drained my energy, that were kind of a waste of time and money. Maybe they weren't a waste overall, but they didn't have the highest leverage. And what do you replace the time with? Anything else is better than doing the wrong thing.
nice one. Yeah, it can drain you. It can hook you up to those stuff. But as soon as you give up those big stuff that you're so used to, and sometimes they're easy for you to do, and this is why you do them. But as soon as you're getting rid of them, you're delegating them to other people. You're being freed to regrowing yourself because you now have the actual possibility and option to reinvent yourself, because otherwise you'll stay the same Ross, I'll stay the same Shay, and we also as business owners want to evolve.
That's
So
the whole
we
game.
have to give up some stuff in order to make this growth on our own.
Yep. If you want to lose weight, you cannot eat a pan of cookies every day. Right? Same
Yeah,
thing. Well,
can
for
do it.
those of you that are listening, as always, I don't run ads in the show. I don't plan to, but my only ask is that if you found this conversation to be valuable, share it with a friend. And the last question's not super deep, I promise. Shay, how can people find you? Where should people connect with you?
Sure. Obviously on LinkedIn. I always tell people, people sometimes texting me or just emailing me, and it take me some time to answer. And I tell people, message me on LinkedIn. I'm answering in a heartbeat. It's better than my WhatsApp or whatever communication that you guys are using. So search me up on LinkedIn. I'm answering pretty fast, or check our website, mayadigital.com, team-maya.com, or in Google, and I will be more than happy to get to know new people.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining, Shay. Thank you all for
Sure,
listening.
Ross.
Be well.